on now. All right. I'm going to just check to see if it's on. It is. Okay. I don't know if it's here. And I'm thinking it might not be. All right. So, hi, everybody. I decided to do a live today because of the story that I recently wrote, Walking Alongside Death. And there was another story that I wrote that I really want to share with you. I felt like this one I should actually read and not necessarily type up and post pictures about, but I wanted to just do a little video about that story. And also to announce that we're having another 5-day soul reset coming up on Monday, March 15th. And so for the next 6 days, you guys will hear me talking a lot about that because it is a really great way to initiate us into this next season, into the springtime, right? We are finally getting out of the cold, rainy, wet, snowy wintertime for a lot of us. And now it's really all about us going into, oh, you know what? I need to make sure that my mic is okay. Whoops. I need to make sure my mic is okay because it wasn't okay before. Let me make sure that's right. Hold up. I just realized I didn't. Okay, it's on. Okay, I just want to make sure. And so, sorry about that. And so I really want to talk about why the 5-day soul reset is happening and what it's about, really, because there's a lot of us that like are seeing these, like, you know, people maybe in our lives, in our worlds that are like all about preaching like about yoga and about spirituality, and they're using all these like catchphrase words and talking about being grounded and like all this stuff. And for a lot of people, it sounds like, what the hell are they talking about? And, you know, is this even real? Like, what's the value in this? You know, kind of stuff. So like, and is it just a fad, you know? And, you know, I'm here to tell you that no, it's not a fad. And I'm stepping up as your guide to guide you through kind of like the beginnings of like opening up this door for you. That's what the 5-day soul reset is all about. It's like an introduction into this new way of being. So the first day we work on being grounded and what that actually means, and how that can, when you shift into a more grounded state, how that can shift you out of states of overwhelm, fear, anxiety really quickly. On day 1, day 2, we talk about the vibrational effects of crystals, gemstones, and sound, and how bringing us back into a more of an alignment with sound and vibration is extremely powerful. So we do that day 2. Day 3 is all about what's a technique that I created called soul journaling, which is a way to, you pose a question and then you use the soul journaling process to allow your subconscious and unconscious to give you your answer, which a lot of people, I don't think, really knew that you could do that, but it actually works, and it's really cool. It's a really powerful tool that, you know, we really have the answers inside of us. It's just a matter of like digging them out. And this is one way, through soul journaling on day 3. And then day 4 is all about creating rituals and why it's so important that we do create rituals. And so I'll explain all that, and we'll guide you through that process and what that looks like. And then day 5 is really kind of like bringing the entire group together and creating a community, a synergistic soul session where we all create and share in this time and in this space all together. So that is the 5-day soul reset. It's kind of like your introduction into this new way of thinking and being that is more aligned with a more like harmonious state in your body, where healing can really happen, where breakthroughs really happen. So the 5-day soul reset is just that. It's to help to realign, reconnect you, and to show you this new way of thinking and being that is really truly aligned with the higher parts of you. And so I want to talk a little bit about the last story that I'm not writing up, but I will share it with you all here on vibration. And so again, vibration comes in a lot of different forms. And for day 2 of the 5-day soul reset, I will be talking all about vibration through crystals and gemstones and sound. But vibration is also something that we all have in our physical bodies. And I'm going to share a story that is a little bit sad. And I'm just going to read it to you. It's a little sad, but to some of you, but it's a really powerful story on my personal experience with vibration that happened to me a few years ago. All right, so just bear with me. I'm going to just pull this up and just read it to you. Okay, so I'm going to tell you a sad story, one that is filled with lots of emotion and impossible decisions. But in the end, it is a powerful lesson in vibration and how we are so much more than our physical bodies. I was pursued by a guy on Facebook. We lived in the same area, and he seemed to be looking for friends. We shared some common interests, hosting events around town in sound healing and acupuncture and in art. He was older than me, and he was a scientist, a prominent in the prominent bioscience research facility here. His life's work revolved around finding a cure for a neurological degenerative disease that affects millions of people. And his research was conducted on monkeys. In hindsight, it would have benefited me to see him as a scientist that runs tests on and labs on sentient beings. And that would explain a lot of his behavior thereafter. But getting back to the story, he became a bit of a fixture in my life rather quickly. He started inviting me to various events around the city, and it was fun. And then one day he made his move. And I was a bit shocked by it, but he was a nice person, so I decided to see where this would go. Once we became intimate, things began moving really fast. It was as if he was on some sort of a schedule to move forward and make things official, introduce me to all of his friends. And I started to notice things were off when we went down to Mexico for a weekend getaway. The feeling that I felt like objectified by him. And the funny thing was that a few days earlier, he mentioned that he had this fear that I would only be seen through this monocle that he perceived me as they were, like this pretty object that was there to please him. And since I knew this was a fear of his, I brought this to his attention, that he invited me down to Mexico for one reason, and that I wasn't okay with that. And I knew from this point on that things were changing and in a not so healthy direction for the two of us. Once I spoke my truth, he changed right in front of me. His demeanor shifted. He became very quiet and reserved, and at times agitated as we drove back through the winding mountains from Mexico to the US border. On a 5-hour drive home, he didn't speak, staying hyper-focused on the road and the border crossing. While in the flurry of this budding new relationship, we decided to host, this was before Mexico happened, we decided to host a Thanksgiving dinner at his home, inviting 20 of our closest friends. He organized the meal, and I prepared some desserts for us to indulge in after dinner. Our giant dinner party was a hit. And while sitting at the table in the middle of the dinner, I realized I hadn't started my monthly cycle yet. On Black Friday, I went to the store. I was sure that my cycle would start at any moment. Just to be safe, I picked up a few pregnancy tests. I waited until the morning, telling myself that I probably wouldn't need to use them. The following morning came, and my cycle didn't. And so I took a test and it came back positive. I took 2 more with the same results. I couldn't believe this. We had only been intimate a handful of times, and I was really worried about how he would take the news. We made plans for me to come by his office that evening, and when I showed up, I dropped the news on him, and I even brought another test with me so that we could take it together. When the test came back positive, his immediate reaction was sheer excitement. He was thrilled that he would be a father again. He had a son from a previous marriage. He told me he loved me and that everything was going to be all right. We went out that night to celebrate, and he even initiated conversations about us planning for our future, moving in and marriage and talking to our families. I went home in shock. I was going to be a mom, and he was thrilled that he was going to be a dad again. And it all happened so fast, but it felt like we were in this together. I remember this feeling in my belly, like it was like this high vibrational fluttering, this energy that was in me, but I knew it wasn't mine. It was the energy of this little girl that was in my belly. I had been dreaming about her and her energy, and how that was always a part of her. The dreams had always had this high vibrational fluttering feeling. And seeing her with like this wild hair in my dreams and all this strength from the beginning, I knew she was a force. And then within a few days of the big news, there was another shift in him. The look in his eyes seemed to change. He became withdrawn and withholding. Something within him had shifted. When I asked him what was wrong, he said that I had trapped him, that I had wanted to do this to him, and then he didn't want to be a father again. He totally flipped out on me. He told me that I would be alone if I wanted to have this child. He would not help me. I was in complete shock. I couldn't understand how he could think that I would intentionally trap him. I couldn't believe that he would leave me if I had the baby. This is interesting. I've only read this out loud. This is the first time I'm doing it. I happen to be doing this live, so emotions are definitely moving. So after many anguishing nights and conversations with my mother, my sisters, my best friends, doctors, I had to make a choice. I had just begun my career, and I was not in a financial situation to make it on my own and have a baby. I never saw that that was how my life would be, that I would be a single parent. So I made the hardest decision I ever had to, and I decided to terminate. Oh, he was there with me when I made that painful decision. Being a very spiritual person, I knew I had to hold a ceremony for her. I had to write her a letter and tell her how sorry I was for my decision. And if things were different and if I had the support, I would have loved to be her mother. I actually invited him to write one too, and together we would burn the letters on the day. I took this very, very seriously. As for him, I'm not so sure that he did. He didn't seem connected, and he went through the motions as if by obligation. I shed tears on what a sad moment that was, and he stood by unmoved. And I knew that she understood me. I knew she understood me. The week that followed was an intense grieving process. I felt deeply that she knew the timing wasn't right. But to have someone so close to you that you had to release is not easy. I knew I did not want to bring up a child into this world without having both parents. This was not how I grew up. So I did not want her to feel the pain that I know so many others have. But at my checkup appointment, he came with me a week later. Once the doctor said everything was okay, we went out to lunch. He seemed to be now in a lighter mood to celebrate, and I just felt empty. Before the termination, he said that we would still work towards being together afterwards. So in my mind, I thought that we would continue to figure out how to move forward together. After we had lunch, he dropped me off, and that was the last time I saw him. New Year's Eve was around the corner, and I wanted to spend it together after we had just gone through what we had went through. He had other plans, none of which involved me. This is the part that was remembering that he was a scientist that experimented on monkeys really came into view. That way he could just like coldly shut off and disappear. And then weeks before, he was telling me that he loved me. A year and a half went by before I saw him again. I was driving, and all of a sudden I felt the same high vibrational fluttering energy in my stomach. I felt it around me. It was the energy of that little girl that I had carried for that short time. I looked over to my left, and there he was in his car at a red light. I stared directly at him. I took in his whole profile, the same profile, haircut, the same glasses. And then I glanced into the back seat of his car, since he was talking into the rearview mirror. And there was a woman sitting next to a baby carrier. And there was a little baby. Oh, at first I was pissed. Oh, I was so pissed that he had this baby with this woman. I mean, that's like your natural gut reaction. But after a few moments, I realized what actually happened. That this little girl that was once in me was now in the back seat of his car. She was destined to make it into the world and for him to be her father. Knowing him from this short time, I knew there were certain lessons that she needed to come into this physical world to teach him. She is such a persistent spirit. Once I understood this, I completely felt free. I knew that she was here to shake him up and to teach him. Knowing that gave me all the solace anyone could ever hope for from that situation. And it also taught me how we are so much more than our physical shells. We exist on so many levels that we can't see with our eyes, but we sure can feel them. So I tell you this story to never discount your feelings, the vibrations that come from people, from situations, or from circumstances. Take stock of what they are. Make notes if you have to, because they are all a part of your journey. If I had decided to shut down my body and my emotions while going through this process, I would have missed this feeling it all. I would have missed it. And I would not have learned this lesson. And for that, I am truly grateful. So that's the story of vibration that happened to me. And I'm sharing it with all of you to maybe inspire and hope that you can make these connections in your own life with vibration and the power behind it. And if you want to learn more about vibration, join me for a 5-day soul reset. You can sign up for it at www.5daysoulreset.com. And I hope you all are having a wonderful, wonderful Wednesday. And I will see you all live tomorrow. Okay, let's see how I can